Based on what so many fans had seen and heard about The Acolyte, whether it was from Leslie Headland, Harvey Weinstein's personal assistant and the showrunner herself, or by so many different members of the crew, people are already very skeptical of the newest Disney Star Wars show. But when Kathleen Kennedy and Leslie Headland decided before the show even came out to launch preemptive strikes on fans, calling them toxic, calling them sexist, implying that they're racist and bigoted if they don't like this series, you knew it was only a matter of time before this show came out and proved that it was a massive pile of shit. And it certainly did just that, but I'm not sure we were ready for just how bad it was actually going to be. Now sinking down to a 14% on Rotten Tomatoes, The Acolyte is by far the worst entry in the history of Star Wars, and that includes some pretty divisive entries. And over the past few weeks since the premiere, we have seen over and over again the mainstream media, the access media, do everything they can to cover for Disney, to cover for Lucasfilm, and to blame this failure completely and entirely on fans. We've seen all of the headlines, including this banger: The Acolyte isn't ruining Star Wars, you are. It's the fans' fault for not accepting this poorly written drivel. And this is what happens when storytelling and great writing is last on your list. When you're not focusing on giving something to Star Wars fans that they're gonna love. When you're not focused on honoring the legacy of George Lucas, and instead you're worried about pushing your own agenda both in front of the camera and behind the camera. You get entries like this, and you get the media defending the studio. The same thing here over at Forbes. Paul Tassi: The Acolyte's 15% audience score is embarrassing for the audience scorers. Yeah, it couldn't possibly be that people actually think this is a massive pile of shit. They must just be haters. It can't possibly be that there's so much to criticize about this series. That's why people are so mad. Well, we knew it was only a matter of time before they just came straight out and said it. They blamed racism and bigotry on why people don't like this series. Racists are review bombing black-led Star Wars series The Acolyte, despite high ratings from real critics. Oh, real critics. You mean the ones who have been exposed time after time, doing everything in their power to cover for the studios to maintain their access? The real critics who don't know what they're talking about when it comes to Star Wars and will say everything they can just to get invited back for these exclusive interviews, for the premieres, for all of these different things. Those real critics, well, as it turns out, people don't trust those real critics as far as they can throw them. And the agenda from the studio and from the media is clear and obvious. They hate Star Wars fans, and they want to turn Star Wars into something that it never was. Once again, Star Wars fans show their true colors when a person of color or woman gets to shine in a galaxy far, far away. The Star Wars fandom continues to embarrass itself. The latest series in the franchise, The Acolyte, has fallen victim to yet another review bombing campaign from the audience, an unfortunate practice that's often rooted in racism and misogyny. Yeah, you know, all those racists that came out and shit all over Billy D. Williams as Lando, all those racists that came out and shit all over Mace Windu when Samuel L. Jackson played him. Is that the racist franchise you're talking about? What are all those misogynistic attacks on Padme, on Leia? That's weird. I don't seem to remember those. That's weird how that works, isn't it? It's almost like people are critiquing the writing, the bad storytelling, and of course, bad characters, whatever color they may be, whatever sex they may be. It's so funny that all of this is happening as House of the Dragon premiered a few days ago. Not only did it premiere to numbers that dwarf that of The Acolyte in general, but also that cast and crew. When you look at these two shows, they both have very diverse casts. They both are led by women. Yet somehow, some way, people aren't review bombing one of those shows because guess what? House of the Dragon, at least in the view of the vast majority of people, is incredibly well written, has very interesting characters with depth, with arcs, and people like watching it. That is why people don't like watching The Acolyte, and these people cannot get over it. The prequel series, which stars Amandla Stenberg, earned glowing reviews from critics, currently sitting at 84% on Rotten Tomatoes. This series has also been a ratings hit for Disney+, standing as the largest debut for the streamer so far this year. A ratings hit, and once again, we're seeing these people try to twist things because it's not a ratings hit. Throughout the first 6 months of the year, Disney Plus has launched nothing of note, nothing that's been successful. The biggest thing they launched was the Echo series, which was the worst viewed Marvel Disney Plus series in history. And now they're trying to pretend like The Acolyte's a success. That is the tallest midget, the smartest retard. Congratulations, Disney Star Wars, because when we actually got the numbers, what did we find out? Oh yeah, the previous low for a Star Wars series, Ahsoka, The Acolyte fell significantly behind that. 20 to 25% fewer people watch The Acolyte, which makes it the least watched Disney Star Wars show in history. But they still want to try to change things. They want to try to pretend like this thing was actually a ratings hit when it was not. It's been a complete and total failure. Yet despite its warm reception from the fake critics, congrats, the show's still not immune to some of the harshest parts of the Star Wars fandom, as it currently sits at a shocking 15% audience score. For years now, certain projects in the franchise have been review bombed, with hundreds of audience review sites like IMDb and Rotten Tomatoes pouring in and affecting the overall scores. Dedicated audiences feel a right to these stories, and unfortunately, sectors of these fandom have some serious racial, misogynistic, and often homophobic biases they operate with when engaging in this content. Listen, when we first started to hear about The Acolyte, when all we had to do was listen to Leslie Headland and the cast talk about this, listen to it be promoted, it was all focused on one thing. Was that a love of Star Wars? Was that we can't wait to honor George Lucas? No, it was all about diversity and representation. It was talking about how gay this show is. The gayest Star Wars we've ever seen, from Leslie Headland and the star Amandla Stenberg herself. Talk from the cast about how there's never really been any women in Star Wars. We can't wait to have a show focused on women, as if you haven't seen the past decade of Disney Star Wars drivel. But now that the show is out there and we have tangible shit to look at, whether it's lore-breaking things, whether it's stupid decisions, whether it's dialogue that is nonsensical, whether it's storytelling that does not make any sense and is not compelling, this thing is getting ripped apart in every conceivable way. It's not a competent product. And one of the reasons that happened is because this focus on diversity and representation did not just focus on the people that are on the screen. It focused on the writer's room. They went out of their way to hire people that didn't know Star Wars, that had no experience in writing, simply because of the color of their skin, their gender, or their sexuality. Leslie Headland openly admitted that. And now we're seeing the result. When you don't go out there to hire the best people for the job and you go out and target people based on their skin color, you're not always going to get the best product, and that's what has happened. They can say anything they want. They can label the fan base anything they want. The truth is, the reason it's at 14% is because the vast majority of people who have given The Acolyte a chance despise what they've seen on screen. No amount of spin can change that. And they go from blaming YouTubers to blaming the fans to whatever. God forbid they actually blame Disney, Lucasfilm, Kathleen Kennedy, Leslie Headland, Dave Filoni, who oversaw this series. No, they can't catch any criticism. It's always about the fans. How dare you not like this drivel? You gotta eat it up, or else you're not a fan. No, that's bullshit. Fans have rejected this series wholeheartedly and will continue to do so until they're shown something that isn't complete and total garbage. Let me know your thoughts about this in the comments section below. Smash a like button, subscribe to the channel, ring the bell for notifications, share this video out there, and I'll talk to you later.